Hello, friends and lovers. We have made it to the spookiest time of year. This is Summerween. This is the first time I've ever attempted a Summerween vlog. I usually do one vlog of like horror thrillers a year and then I call it good. I'm not a majority scary book reader, but every so often I love a good mystery or a good little thrill. With that being said, I'm very excited for this video and to take you along with me while I read some of these books that I've been meaning to get to for months, if not years. So we are actually starting with The Thrashers by Julie Soto. I love a good YA thriller because I think you can spend a YA thriller not wondering why the characters are acting dumb. It's because they're teenagers. It really takes the guessing out of like, how stupid can a grown adult be? They're in high school. So it's like, okay. So sometimes it's a little more believable in a YA thriller than it would be in a regular thriller. This follows a group of kind of popular kids who are called the Thrashers. You find out at the beginning of this book that a girl has killed herself and left clues to kind of implicate this group, but you don't know what they did and what they didn't do. She seems like an unreliable source of information, and it almost seems like she wants to be our main character. And so she's like trying to like get herself into this group. It's following all of this group of friends, but it's mainly following Jody. And Jody feels like, even though she's part of the Thrashers, that she doesn't feel like she's a core member. She has been friends with Zach Thrasher since the second grade, but he's always been larger than life, very popular, and she just doesn't feel like she adds to that. And she's kind of been in love with him the whole time. She's never told him, and she kind of hangs out with all of his friends, and she almost feels like she is circumstantially connected to these group of people. And in high school, they become notorious for thrashing people, which means that they're kind of like bullying them. But in Jody's defense, I don't think she's necessarily doing it. It's like the people around her, but it's kind of like, okay, obviously in a way she's condoning this by continuing to hang out with these people. And so it all comes to a head when on prom night, a girl named Emily kills herself, and the group is now being implicated in possibly bullying her to death. So it is a little heavy, but like I said, Emily is in a way an unreliable narrator because she was trying to like insert herself into this group, and then she has this diary that she was recording her life in, or supposedly, because we find out pretty early on that there's something in the journal already that's not true, because it said that Jody actually kept Emily from killing herself one time before, and the mom actually comes forward and thanks Jody for keeping her here longer. But Jody's like, that didn't happen. But so you kind of get this feeling of, can we even trust Emily's narrative? You definitely understand that the Thrasher group is not a good group of people, and I'm actively hoping maybe some bad things happen to them because like they're not great. This isn't a book where you're like rooting for somebody. I think every person that this story touches on is a little in the wrong here, but it definitely like keeps you engaged because you're like, okay, so what actually happened? So anyway, I'm very engaged in this. I think if you love Holly Jackson, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, you'll like this. So I have been very much appreciating that. I did start Summerween a day early because I have a day off. So here we are. So I will take you guys along with me during the week of Summerween as I read for the chills and the thrills. Hopefully you cannot hear my computer breathing so hard because it's trying to run The Sims in the background. She's just doing her thing. She's an old girl, but I'm about 80% through this Thrashers now, and I'm very much enjoying it. I still have like a lot of questions, obviously, because I'm sure the next 20% is literally going to be a race towards the end. I'm feeling 4, maybe 4.5. I'm not totally feeling 5 stars for this. It is very like fast-paced, consumable, like you want to keep listening, and I feel like feed you enough mystery along the way to keep you going. It also doesn't feel like too heavy-handed or too easy. I don't really know what's going on yet, and I feel like sometimes in YA thrillers you can kind of parse together what's going on a little easier, but I haven't been able to guess what actually happened yet. I do think that, I don't know, I don't want to go into any spoilers in case people are still going to read this, but overall it's still kept, you don't know who's telling the truth about what, and no one feels like a good person in this book, so you could believe that like any of these people could have done wrong, and I would have been like, obviously just don't seem like totally good people. I'm going to keep reading and I'll let you know my final thoughts when I'm done. Hello. Good morning. So I did end up finishing The Thrashers last night. I very much enjoyed this one. It was a good experience. I basically blitzed through this in a day and a half, and 4 stars, 4.5 stars. I really liked that you couldn't really tell what was going on the whole time. Of course, there was different suspicions that something happened, but you keep uncovering more, and it just made me more confused to be like, okay, how did this actually go down and who did what? I did enjoy that the fact that all of these people weren't good people, including our narrator. I think in a way the narrative wants you to believe that she is the best person of these people, but she still is like condoning this awful behavior, which I think also makes her a bad person. But I think she's being treated like she is like othered as a thrasher because she is the only one who's not doing these bad, reckless things or being really mean to people, but she's still being mean to them. She's still like choosing to be with the Thrashers even though she's noticing this behavior. And so I'd argue she's not the only good Thrasher, because they make a comment at the end, and I'll say this in a way that it is not a spoiler. They're like, oh, so this is the first time you've thrashed someone? I'd argue she had been complicit the whole time. Girlie was not a good person. This was just such a great start to Summerween because I'm having fun right away, because I really wanted to let myself back in slowly, because I think if I started out with something a little more hardcore right away, maybe I would have been like, oh, because sometimes I will burn out that way. Cue my horror video from last year. I slowly spiraled after reading a book about cannibalism. That was a little insane of me. But I did go ahead and I started the serial killer support group. So did I mostly pick this up via intrigue? I did have, my friend Danny actually really likes this book. So I had heard about it before, but I honestly hadn't really been paying attention to what it's about, anything else. So I am excited to dive in, figure out more. Basically, right now, what's happening is it's following a woman whose sister has died, and it's suspected that she has been killed by a serial killer. And so our main character is trying to infiltrate something called, you guessed it, the serial killer support group. And you can't make this shit up. It kind of adds a kind of corniness to this very serious narrative where she is really broken up and upset and almost emotionless in a way due to her sister's death. And she's been given this journey to go on to try to figure out, like, okay, so if a serial killer killed my sister, who is it? She starts researching and is able to get in contact with the support group, and now she has to prove herself to be a killer in order to join. So what a premise. And so far I am very actively engaged in this. I will say it is a little interesting because you can definitely feel that the character has a very standoffishness with her own emotions. And so in a way, you also aren't getting that emotionally involved in what's happening because she's not feeling it. So she's like not taking you through that emotion. So that has been kind of interesting. It's almost written in a way where I was worried that this was written by a man, because I don't know, sometimes men who write women as main characters in thrillers or horror write them in a way that I don't think understands, like, I don't know, the emotionality of being a woman or just being a person in general. I just think it's about not being aware of emotional intelligence. And so how can you write from that perspective when, like, it's not your reality? So it was kind of reading that way. And so I had to look it up. Saratoga is actually non-binary, they, them pronouns. So we're safe from this being written by a man, but I was like, something's going on here. I do think it makes sense because the character is distant from her emotions, and so you're also feeling like a disconnect from the intense thing that happened and you not feeling like totally emotionally in it, which is fine. Because I'm fine if I'm not super emotionally in a thriller or a horror, because obviously you know bad things are going to happen. So I'm very interested to see how this continues to go, but I think this is just going to be another not fun read. I think this one's definitely a little darker, a little more gritty than The Thrashers, because The Thrashers, of course, was a YA thriller. So it's not going to have things that are quite as intense, but I'm still intrigued. So let's continue my reading. I'm hoping to get a solid chunk of this done today and then see where we go from there.
I finished another book. I was trying to hype myself up to film this clip. I'm just feeling very sleepy. I woke up at 7 and it's a weekend, so I don't know why I did that. It's not 7 now. I've been waking up for 2 hours, but the sleepy, she is in me. But I did end up finishing Serial Killer Support Group. I don't think we're shocked. I enjoyed it. I definitely think it was not like a hard pivot from Thrashers, but it's comparing Thrashers, which to me is a high octane CW show on crack, to this was definitely a little bit of a pivot, because this is definitely a little heavier, even though it has kind of like a hokey premise, because I think a support group for serial killers is interesting. I think what I didn't expect when I picked this up was that you get these mixed chapters where you get the different perspectives of the different serial killers. So you'll get a little bit of background on them, or something they did as a youth that was concerning, or that they have daddy problems and stuff like that. But I feel like it helped break up the narrative of the story, because I think the mystery in this one is pretty straightforward, or I just feel like it isn't that complicated. Part of me feels like the main character in this, trying to find the person who killed her sister, maybe went a little too far, but in a way that's like, I support girls' wrongs. I think if you enjoy They Never Learn by Lane Fargo, I think this is the book for you. It definitely has, I support girls' rights, but I also support girls' wrongs. And it was just interesting because the sister also takes on this persona when she's hanging out with these other serial killers. And you can notice how hanging out with them changes how she thinks about things. I wouldn't say it's like I'm obsessed with this, or that I think it's going to be a book I think about for a long time, but for what it was, I think this is a great summer read in a way. It delivers on the premise. It gives you enough to keep you going and keep you interested without it slapping you in the face to be like, okay, like this is the obvious answer to what's going on. And like I said, I did really like to explore the different serial killers that she meets and their different, it feels weird to be like their different reasons, but in a way, their reasons, or what drove them to it in the first place and what keeps them going. And then also why they're kind of seeking community in that. Kind of funny to think about. So I think I do need to pivot a little bit, just because I feel like my brain wants a fantasy or just something that's a little more left of reality than the last two books were, because they were definitely more contemporary, and I think I just need to pivot from that for a second. So I did pick up this horror novella called The Salt Grows Heavy, and so far, I will say it took me a minute. I literally listened to the first chapter, and then I had to restart the first chapter because I realized I wasn't paying attention because I was so sleepy this morning. So I started over, and this is basically about a mermaid and are they called a witch doctor? The doctors with the masks, plague doctor, something like that. Yeah, plague doctor. And it's all about how this mermaid, it's like the beast, has had children, and you find out that her children ate her husband, but she's cheering them on. So not in a like, oh no, they ate her husband way, in a hell yeah, they ate your husband way. It's only a 3-hour audiobook, so I was like, okay, let's give myself an easy win today. I don't want to push myself to read too much today. I'm going to focus on just finishing this, and then I'll probably start another book today. So I am thinking about picking up the next S.A. Barnes, and she writes science fiction, horror, thriller type things. And I've read one of her books before, and I really liked it. And so this one's called Cold Eternity. And I have no idea what the premise is. I'll let you know when I start it. But I found that I really do vibe with science fiction horror. Anyway, I will update you when I have stuff. I did end up finishing When the Salt Grows Heavy. I don't know how I feel about it. Also, I'm so sorry if you can hear my computer breathing so loud in the background. I was playing video games again. So The Salt Grows Heavy, it was just odd. It does follow that mermaid and the plague doctor like I talked about, but it gets kind of weird and gross and weird and gross. There's a lot of surgery happening and nothing quite makes sense. I think the issue for me is that short form, weird stories that are just supposed to make you like a little uncomfortable. I just don't know what I'm supposed to take away from them. I didn't actively have a bad time, and I was actively interested while I was reading it, but I just like never super connected to it because I was just like, what's going on here? But nothing was super explained either. I just don't know what I'm supposed to take away from it. So after that, I did end up picking up Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes, and this is a science fiction thriller, and this one leans a little more horror than the contemporary thrillers I was reading, because we basically follow this girl named Haley who is trying to get away from her past, and you can tell has an interesting relationship with her family, but I think that's something we're going to learn more about as we go. But she's obviously wants to stay hidden, and she also really needs money, but she's been stuck on this ship that just isn't really good. It's very much giving smarmy vibes. It's just a bad area to be in. And she has just recently been robbed, but she has a feeling that maybe she's been robbed like... I was going to say she's been robbed on purpose, but obviously like any way you get robbed is on purpose. But I mean that she thinks there's more to it than that. She thinks that it was a targeted attack on her to scare her, but you don't know why yet. So she ends up going after this job that is going to lead her to a more remote ship or station. I'm not quite sure what it is. It's essentially a museum where rich people, past presidents or celebrities, or you find out that there was a little girl whose town loved her, but she had passed away when she was younger. They paid a bunch of money for these people to be preserved, in cold eternity, some would say. I think it's going to play into the title. So they're basically life like mannequins. And so I'm sure we will discover that it is more haunting than we could even think of for ourselves. So she has started working at this museum, and there's a lot of weird things going on, and it's just been kind of eerie. It hasn't really been like spooky, scary, but I'm sure that's coming because I feel like S.A. Barnes kind of does like a slow build, at least from the other book that I read of hers. I think I read Ghost Station. So I'm sure that this is going to just be something that builds over time. You keep getting little eerie feelings over stuff, and then it just builds while you're uncovering this kind of like bigger mystery at play. I am interested to figure out what's going on with Holly, what's going on with these weird mannequins, and apparently there's these like AI chauffeur things that are also around this museum. So I don't know. Also, I wouldn't want to be there myself, but I would definitely say this is a welcome change from the last few books I've read. I'm very excited to be diving back into science fiction, thriller / horror, just because I do think this is the Jana niche. I'm already
scared enough of reality. The fact that I'm already 3 books deep and we are 3 days into the readathon, I'm feeling great about that. And honestly, even if I only read like Cold Eternity, I would be happy. 4 books for a readathon, I think, is crazy good. And we just finished the 2nd season of Squid Games, so I feel like that's also been contributing to those eerie feelings, the Summerween of it all. So I'm just having a great Summerween, and the vibes, they're so good. And I think it's good to kind of break this up because then I'll get to, I feel like, the fall, and I'll be ready to do maybe another round of spooky, scary books then.
Oh my God. So I've been reading a little bit before work, and we met some of these like AI hosts that the museum has, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. They are freaky and they are scary and I do not like them.
So I did finish Cold Eternity, and what a ride. And now my cat's standing like right here. You can't see him yet, but you will soon. It genuinely started to freak me out. It really reminded me of The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. In that way where, like, you know, because in that one she's in like a weird, eerie taxidermied museum. And in this one, we're in like a kind of like, what's it called? The thing they put Walt Disney in. Cryostasis. I don't know. The thing where they freeze you and hope to realive you later. Got it. There's just like a bunch of bodies, and she realizes that they're like being swapped around, and all of this like freaky shit is happening. And I don't want to give any spoilers, but I was just creeped out. Like, I feel like S.A. Barnes does this so well that I felt this way in the last one too, where there is this like eeriness that really like builds in her stories that I really appreciate, because I feel like lures you in with a false sense of security, and then she's like, boom. And you're like, ooh, no. I literally couldn't even read this at night. I really did wait until the morning to finish it, because I was like, nope, you will not catch me reading this with the lights off or when it's dark outside. No. No. So again, I feel like this was another 4-star thriller. I feel like this has been such a good Summerween. I've had nothing but a good time. Really excited to read the next book. I'm just started. I can't really tell you a lot about it. I literally read a chapter on the way home from work, but I started These Fleeting Shadows. My friends love this, so I'm going to assume I'm gonna love it. But I just knew, because I felt like we're getting down to the wire. We're getting to the last like couple days of the readathon. If I can only read one more book for this video, it is going to be this one. I don't have a great place to put my phone in here. Am I in a conference room? I got to work way too early this morning, but I wanted to go over because I am absolutely like just having a ball with this. This is very much a story of like, this house is an entity, and it's all about this family who kind of, in a way, like serves the house, but like they live at this house, but this house is definitely like its own being. And of course, the master of the house has died, and who else could take over but our main character? So she actually left the house when she was 7. Her mom like took her away. Something had happened. We don't know what it is. Now they're back, and since the other master of the house has died and it's passed on to our main character, she accepted being the master of the house, but she's not really sure what that means, except that she's not allowed to leave for a year. And the house is kind of like a maze, and it also is giving her nightmares, or something's giving her nightmares, you know? It doesn't necessarily have to be the house. So there's definitely a lot that's like keeping me intrigued about this. And I think I'm just one who loves a good kind of like haunted house story where I don't know, because I think paranormal and like thrillers works for me in a way. I know some people find it kind of like a cop out for like the things happening. They want it to be real, but I definitely think I like it better when there's some sort of like other element at play than just like someone's really good at pranks. So far this definitely has my interest. I'm 30% of the way in now. And yeah, I don't know what else there is to say. I am just having such a good time.
Hello, friends. So I ended up finishing These Fleeting Shadows. Wow, no, I loved it. And I feel like for people who have read this, I did immediately start listening to Taylor Swift's Who's Afraid of Little Old Me afterwards. And I feel like if you think about it, if you really think about it, it makes sense. Like that was the first song my brain was like, you finish this book, you need to listen to this song. Because for some reason, that's just what that book like brought out in me. I just really liked it. It was really good. Like I feel like I've been a broken record this vlog, just being like, this was good. Because besides the novella, I feel like I've just been enjoying myself and having a good time. I know that's a crime on BookTube. I should have some controversial opinions sometime soon. But I'm just vibing, guys. And I'm not gonna lie, just to make things a little more spicy for you. I feel like I kind of explained to you what the book was about, and I definitely, again, liked the house as an entity concept, and I want more books like that. So if you have that kind of like horror or thriller, send it my way. I think like that kind of horror thriller, like right up my alley. I'm just into it. I like the concept. I think there's ones that I've read that I haven't liked as much, but I find that I like them more when they have like a paranormal aspect, and this one definitely does. I've only read 2 Kate Alice Marshalls, and both of them had a paranormal aspect to them, and I enjoyed both of them a lot. Like, I definitely need to read more of her books. I'm doing myself a disservice by not doing that. Like, I don't know what else there is to say. I feel like this was just such a great Summerween, and I had such a good time. And I feel like this was a good pivot for me because I feel like I've been reading, not like in a slump, but I was definitely like slowing down. And I feel like this kind of like put the wind beneath my wings, if you will. It's definitely made me like pick up things faster. And since I finished this, I've almost like read a whole romance novel in like a day. Because sometimes you need absence to make your heart grow fonder. And now I am back to cowboy romances. So like, you can't keep a girl down for long. I'm just a lover. Besides that, I hope if you participated in Summerween, you had a great readathon. You should let me know what your favorite book was, so that way maybe I can fit it into my October TBR as it comes up, because she's fast approaching. But as always, thank you so much for watching.